This show is sponsored by We Are Change Fresno. Welcome to We Are Change Fresno with your hosts, Stuart Webb and Sam Cheney, fighting the international bankers' one-world government scientific dictatorship. Be the change you want to see in the world. And now, here's your hosts.
Welcome to We Are Change Fresno on 1680 AM. I'm your host, Stuart Webb, along with my co-host, Sam Cheney, and our producer, Woody.
Hey.
That boy. Folks, we got a couple guests in studio today, so we're very excited about that on this first hour of our 2-hour broadcast. We'd like to thank our sponsors and our listeners, and we just like to appreciate. We'd like to let you know how much we appreciate you and for continuing this broadcast. We're on week 23.
Got a little tongue-tied there, huh?
And yeah, I did a little bit because
That's
Sam's pointing at me. He's like, "You need to
what
press
happens.
record."
That's what.
No, it's because I'm in
Radio
the house.
world. It's because
There we
he's
go.
honest. It's because he's honest, and when he's honest, he's always getting tongue-tied. I like that, man. Yeah.
Usually it's women that do that, but I don't know. It happened to Stu today.
I guess
sorry,
so.
Stu.
I did. I got tongue-tied. But folks, we're gonna get going on this first hour. We got 30 minutes with the rock and roll principal, Curtis Shamlin, and so we'd like to, thank him for being here. Curtis, how are you doing today?
I'm doing excellent.
Now,
Couldn't be better.
Well, now we talked over the phone this week, and I kind of got a little idea about what's going on with you. And you've been doing interviews with many news outlets and radio stations. So, can you just, for our audience, if they haven't heard about what is going on with you, can you give them a little overview on what's going down?
Sure. I'm currently a principal. Well, for now, a principal at Tioga Middle School in Fresno, and I've been doing what I like to say a great job as a principal, but I was led to write a book about my life, autobiography. They didn't like the content. So the content is a little harsh, but it's real. It's about my life and some things I went through with child abuse and drug use and things like that, and I got suspended for it, and I kind of gave an avenue for that. I used district email to send out, but these are all my friends, and I just sent out an email to a few 100 friends, and they didn't like that, so I kind of got in trouble for it. And
so you're currently on paid leave then?
I'm on paid leave, yes, paid.
And your contract expires in July, you said?
Yeah, I think it's July, the end of July. Yeah, so
you don't think they're going to be renewing your contract?
No, I really doubt that. And I was called back in last Friday again for some more investigative questioning. Mm-hmm. It just happened to be on the exact same day that the superintendent was at my school, same time, same day, giving us an award from the state and for our academic achievement being in the top 10% in the state. And we got a check for $25,000 from the state of California, too, for that.
And so now do you think that had something to do with how you were running the school?
No, it actually had. I think, to tell you the truth, I think it had everything to do with me being vocal about where our district is heading. And it's been very much a compliance driven district, and you do this and don't say anything and you just do this. And so I kind of am very vocal at all times, and because I care about our kids, in this district, and if we can change our kids, we change Fresno. Just like you say in your
be the change you want to see in the world.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you have the governing body basically, saying you can't do certain things, and you just use your First Amendment right, which you have to be vocal about.
There's no First Amendment right when you're working for the government.
There we go. You basically sign your rights away at this point. We know that that's what happens in the military. You join the military, you have no rights. You are a government agent, and you are not a person anymore. You are a government. You're
property.
That's the word. Thank you, Woody.
Yeah.
And so why do you now? What's the problem with that? I mean, because if the government, does that mean basically now, what the government says goes, especially when it comes to our education for our kids, if we can't be vocal about how we run our schools, and then potentially it could be terrible for our future, for the kids in the future, because their education. I mean, look at Common Core. I mean, how do you feel about Common Core?
I'm mixed on that. I mean, I'm for state rights, so it's hard for me as a libertarian to, first of all, work in a public school system, but then second of all, I really care. So you have to kind of infiltrate into the school system, otherwise you can't make a difference. Yeah. So with Common Core, I think the standards are actually ridiculously high. Yeah. And it's hard to cheat.
I mean, we come from the world where 2 + 2 = 4, and that's it.
No, there's a lot more ways to get to 4 now. And you got to explain it. But some of it is great. Actually, I think some of it's great. I think a lot of it, I mean, my daughter, who was doing well in school, is now struggling, and all her friends are struggling in math, and they're failing. It's actually making the gap bigger. If you're already a kid that you could read the newspaper every day and not have to teach these kids, they're going to be doing the same thing every day, getting good grades. But if you have a kid that's okay or struggling, the gap is going to get further.
And then for the kids that are doing okay, that may even make drops them because they're already progressing at a level. They already learned. They get it. They understand how to do the math. They understand how to read. So you want to nurture that. But Common Core is actually making it harder for them to even learn too, as well.
Yeah, and it's a different way to teach now. And here's the thing I feel about education. Nothing's new. When I taught, there was all kind. It was called the set, objective, purpose. There was all these Madeline Hunter's, strategies to teaching or whatever you want to call it. But now it's something different. And then there's something. All it comes down to is great people in front of the right kids, and it has nothing to do with the program. The problem is we were given this book called Focus by Schmoker, and we were told to read this book and focus on 1 or 2 things at a time, which makes sense in any business, right? Yeah. Well, we have in the book it says, get away from the endless bombardment of new programs. Yeah. Well, that's what we're at, and Common Core is another new program.
There's always some new program that this is what's going to get us. We're failing in the public education system, but this new program is going to fix everything. Well, no, it's the people. It's the people. I agree, completely agree. Yeah. And also, we need to teach our kids something that they're going to, and I don't want to say enjoy, but at the same, it needs to stimulate their brain.
Correct.
Okay, so if you're giving them work that they don't get, they don't understand, you're making it harder for them to learn, how are they going to be able to learn computer programming if they don't even know how to do math correctly because it's taking them a whole minute to do 9 + 6?
No, and when I look back when I was taking calculus, I saw my son's in calculus right now as a junior. He's a little further than me, but when I was taking calculus, you had 4 pages of one problem. Yeah. Now it's in 5th grade you have 4 pages of one problem.
Yeah. Yeah, and so what's it gonna be in high school when calculus is 15 pages for one problem?
Well, here's another thing that Common Core has done. I feel like, okay, so they took away algebra from middle school. Mm-hmm. You can't take 7th grade algebra anymore. Yeah, and I looked at when my son took 7th grade algebra. Now he's in calculus as a junior. Yeah. You won't be able to do that in anymore. At least in California, I know that. So what is that? That puts my kids or our kids as a disadvantage to every other state that lets their kids take 7th grade algebra.
Excel earlier.
No, it's to bring the top down and bring the bottom up. But what it's doing is bringing everybody down.
Everybody down. Yeah, I mean, I knew kids in middle school that were taking like trig in 8th grade. And they were excelling, and that was fine. And other kids could take basic math.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and other kids like me, I could take algebra 1 in 8th grade. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So you can
which
go
is
at your
a
own
high
pace.
School credit class.
Yeah, and you can go at your own pace, but you can also excel as much as you want to excel. I mean, honestly, at this point, when I was 18, a senior in high school, I was so done with the public education system. I hadn't learned anything, I felt, in the last couple of years. So why wasn't I going into college at that point?
Well, it's because of your teachers.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
The thing is think about, and all of us that are in this room, think about the people that you remember.
Yeah.
Who do you remember? Do you remember somebody you hate? No, you remember somebody that you like, and you
Yeah.
learn from somebody you like. You don't learn or listen to somebody you hate. It's all about who's in front of the kids and what my colleagues need to. And I've been saying this over and over again. That's probably why I'm sitting on this station right now. Is look, stop with all the endless programs because you get money for each one of those programs.
Of course. It's
So you got to switch to when the money runs out. You got to get another set of
program
money.
because they need the money. The bureaucrats.
Think of the best teacher you've ever had in your life.
Yeah.
Can you put any kid in that class and they'll learn? Yes.
Yeah, probably.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if we could get every teacher to be like that, we'd be great.
So let's get into your book now. So you talk a little bit more about that, and also is it available for people to get?
The book is called The Rock N Roll Principle. The N is instead of and, it's the letter N. And it is available on my site, which is www.therocknrollprinciple.com through PayPal. And then it's also at Petunias, which is on Bullard and Palm. That's a bookstore that
printed.
let me put. Yeah, it's printed. So I got it. I did it myself. I wrote it in 5 days. So it was crazy. Yeah, and I felt being led by God to do this book, and I just start. You know how you've ever written something and you kind of pause and you think about, or go get a cup of coffee and come back. I never paused. It just was going like this,
pouring out.
And I didn't do it at school. I did it at home, but it happened to be on their tablet. That's another thing that they didn't like, the use of it. But it's about a perseverance.
Yeah. But of course, and government employees, teachers, when they're caught watching porn, it's a slap on the wrist.
Don't write a Christian book, though.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah, you can't write a Christian book because that's offensive.
It is offensive.
But you can watch porn on taxpayers' property and just get on. Maybe get a slap on the wrist, get suspended for a week or two, paid. And then you're back.
That was the actual words that they used. The HR people used. They said, "Didn't you think these things that you said in your book were a little offensive?"
Did they say offensive? Well, of course. Everything in this country is now offensive because PC. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion.
Offensive to who, and who are the human resource people that are saying these type of things?
Well, I'm not going to give names, but let's just say.
No names, but they work for the school district?
Yeah, they work for the school district. Here's the thing that's interesting. Do you know I haven't, it's been, I think, 3 weeks now. I have not yet talked to anybody, period, except 2 people in HR that are not even assistant soups. They're administrators. So they're just like administrative help. They're actually my friends too. Yeah. So they had to do the dirty work kind of thing. And they kind of even feel like, I hate asking these questions. Yeah. But I've never talked to Hanson. I hadn't even talked to my direct supervisor.
Yeah.
So it's weird. I've been
They just cut you off. They ostracized you.
Give me your keys. Get the heck out.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to confront your accuser.
No. This is not America in this system.
Yeah. Now, I wonder if you wouldn't have used their email or the tablet to send this out to people.
Same thing would have happened.
Same thing would have happened.
Content.
That's what I'm thinking.
It's
content.
It's the content. They would have found some avenue to get to me. Here's the thing is when you're vocal about something and you're putting a little kink in things that get other people, other principals, parents, other teachers to actually go, we shouldn't be doing this. And why wasn't there a principal in the room when you guys are making those decisions for all middle schools? Yeah. Or why wasn't there a teacher in the room? Who was in the room? Yeah. Oh, it was just administrators at the district office who actually, some of them have never been in education, period. They worked in business. Yeah. And they're making decisions for educators? Don't get me started.
Yeah, it's a centralization of the bureaucracy that principals have no control, and it's the Department of Education now has, basically, at this point.
I got to say one thing about Hanson, though. That's positive. Michael Hanson is a brilliant man, and I respected him so much when he came in because our district was getting ready to be taken over by the state. We were in financial ruin, and test scores and everything. And he did an amazing job with the board to move us in a better direction. Yeah. And hired people like me that got, my first year, we got the second highest API growth in the state of California for middle schools. So I was very happy with that. It happened this year that everything just starts crumbling. And I don't even understand it. I can't have a voice. You can't talk anymore. You want a yes man and a rubber stamp.
Yeah, well, and they're taking, and I'm not saying that God should be in public schools. I really disagree with public education, period. I don't think it should be taxpayer funded.
But I'm not preaching in a school. It just
Yeah,
happened
exactly.
To,
You
this
just
is on my
happen-
own time. you know?
Exactly,
So,
on your own time.
Were they specific about a specific sentence you wrote that offended them, or was it just in general the overall content? How did they go about addressing?
Well, they didn't address that in the beginning. This was the second interview. So the first time they brought me in, they just said
hand over your keys.
This is all they said. You use district email. And I go, yeah, I did. Well, didn't you know that was wrong? I guess so. Yeah, I guess, yes. But I didn't. I was excited.
Yeah.
I never even thought about it. I've never had a write-up. I've never had a bad evaluation.
Yeah.
I just sent out things to my friends.
You could probably send inappropriate pictures to someone at the school through their email, and then you'd probably get a slap on the wrist.
Think about
honestly.
this. I put out something that said, "Hey, my book's available. I just get it's going to be $15. It's actually 20, so don't try to get $5 off.
Discount.
But the thing is if I would have said, "Hey, my son's selling cookies to raise money," for
no big deal.
No big deal. If I would have said, I don't even want to get into other religions, but if I would have said something raising money for this other church other than that, it would have been totally okay.
Yeah.
I just think it has to do with religious persecution all across the country and a world.
Yeah.
I mean, people are getting their heads cut off because they're Christians.
Yeah, I totally agree. And now, so you're on paid leave. What is the next step for you, assuming that you don't return to being a principal? I mean, what is your plan?
Well, they asked me that because I was on Bill Manders and I was on every station or whatever.
Yeah.
They said, you keep saying that you're gonna you don't want your job back, and I said, I don't want my job back if you're gonna treat me like this.
Exactly. Yeah.
This is ridiculous. I mean, you could have. I can imagine somebody saying, "Here, slap your hand on the Curtis. What were you thinking? Are you stupid? You know what I mean? Don't do that again." Or even, "I have to write you up. Here's your write-up."
Yeah.
But a suspension and take my keys. They told me, "Don't talk to anybody. You can't talk to anybody." Not about the. They said, "Oh no, we said don't talk to anybody about the investigation." No, they said specifically, "You cannot talk to anybody in the district."
Yeah.
Period. I go, "You can't." What gives you the right to tell me I
it's a
can't talk to
violation,
anybody if they're my friends on their off time? This is our policy, I was told. I go, oh, that's baloney.
Did they show you
so
the
they wrote me
policy
up
in
again for
writing?
it. They wrote me up again for it. Yeah, in writing. I went back and I read the suspension papers said you cannot. It didn't say anything about not talking to anybody. So all it said is you are on suspension. Paid leave through this investigation, and you cannot go to any campus. That's all they said. So then, but they told me, they didn't put it in writing. Of course, you wouldn't put that in writing because then you'd get in trouble. But the next write-up was for talking to people.
Wow.
So I have 2 pieces of paper that I'm going to be showing a friend of mine that I have found a new friend of mine
There we go.
that I am going to meet at 9:00 in the morning. And that shows no due process.
Of course.
And it shows that one write-up was for this. Then they wrote me up again for speaking to somebody when that was told.
But even though it wasn't in writing,
but it wasn't in writing.
Exactly.
So, oops.
Yeah.
You guys messed up.
Yeah. And that's the problem with policy. Policy doesn't mean anything, okay? Just because Obama has the policy that he can legally just kill people whenever he wants, no due process, that doesn't mean it's legal.
No.
So absolutely they're in the wrong there. But so we're kind of short on time. If let's get into your political views though. Since I talked to you a little bit about that over the phone, what would you consider yourself?
Well, I would probably say I'm pretty. I've been getting stronger as a libertarian as I go, and I am going to I'm going to go back to teaching after this because I don't think I even want that. I miss kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but I am for fiscal responsibility. I think Jesus says if you don't work, you don't eat.
Yep.
He flat out says that. And then people say, well, what about the poor? Yeah, but think about the poor, what the poor used to be when Jesus was around.
Yeah.
It was crippled people, the people that couldn't see, not able-bodied people.
Able-bodied is a sin not to be working if you're able-bodied and capable.
Yeah,
It is a sin
and
to
why
be
are we
idle.
paying for that?
Yeah.
So I know, so I make a pretty good living, and I pay a lot of taxes.
Yeah.
And when I see my parents, that are on government assistance and not working and sitting at home. They won't even pick up their kid from a suspension, and I have to drop them off at their house, and I open the door and I go, "You're sitting on the couch and you won't even come get your kid?"
Yeah.
I mean, that's the kind of stuff that we got to deal with. Yeah. But what you do with welfare and everything else is you keep people comfortable in their poverty. Yeah. And then they'll never move out, right. And it's all about controlling them. Yeah. It's all control. Now, on the social side of it, I hate to use the term liberal, but I'm a social liberal. Yeah. So anything goes. Yeah. If I don't have to pay for it, you can do. That's between you and God.
Well, the liberal has been actually, the word has been what's the word, Sam? It's been completely hijacked by basically authoritarians. Yeah. The nanny staters, the ones that say, no, we want to control your life. You have to listen to us no matter what. That's authoritarian. That's not liberal. So liberal really and conservative are very similar. I mean, everyone wants free.
I think the word is hijacked. Yeah. Did you say hijacked? Yeah. I mean,
think about it. Liberty, freedom, and liberty. I mean, liberal is supposed to be. It comes from that word, liberty. Okay, so when people say liberal, that's not telling me what to do all day and lecturing me about how I need to drive a Prius. That's authoritarian. Okay, so really liberal. When you say socially liberal, to me, I know exactly what you mean because I know what the word means. And but that's not how this country has been brought up now in this generation to view the word liberal. It's been hijacked, and really most people, I would say, and just like we got talking on the phone, most people that really talk to each other, they find out that they do agree on most things. And that's what being a libertarian is that you mind your own business, I mind mine, and if we want to collaborate on something, we can in the free market or just being individual citizens of this country. They're supposed to have the right to assemble freely and peacefully.
The problem is we need more people like you. I have my own TV show now. It's going to be on CentralValleyTalk.com starting Friday from 7 to 8 plug. Anyway, the thing is that I'm going to be doing the libertarian part of this show, and I'm having you actually are going to be on as the 21st, right? Yeah. So you're going to be on that show, and you're going to be debating. Hey, everybody, the 21st is going to be heated, man, because Stu's going to be on, and I'm going to be on, and we've got the chair of the Fresno County Democratic Party, Mike Evans, is going to be on, and I think a Tea Party member is going to be on. It's on. So the gloves are off, man. Just we pick up the blood after, because they said I have to keep the blood clean. It's you get Ebola. No, I don't know. So anyway, but
so graphic.
Hey, it's going to be graphic. It's going to be crazy. But what I want to say is we've got away from so much of what our founders have done. And then it's funny because then you hear certain, senators or whatever saying they're taking away our freedoms. And they're the very people doing it.
Exactly. Maybe they should say, we just all need to stay home for a couple months and allow people to be free again, because that's what they're doing. Whenever they're in session, it's always limiting. It's almost passing laws that are unconstitutional to limit our freedom. So I would just say, Congress, stay home.
Well, Charlie Rangel said that just yesterday. Yeah. Well, I heard it on the radio yesterday. You're taking away our very freedoms. Whose freedoms? Yeah. Yours to control us? Yeah. That's the freedom you're talking about. It's his freedoms to control the people.
And put Congress on minimum wage.
Oh, you know what? That's a great idea. I don't think anybody in Congress should get paid until we, pass a bill or something like that.
Yeah, until we balance a budget, or at least have a plan to balance the budget, or take the Federal Reserve.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. And I would love the people like you, myself, the people in this room. We need to actually get into politics. Exactly. Otherwise, nothing's going to change. And that's why I like the Tea Party. You know what? The liberals have completely hijacked and ruined the name, besmirched the Tea Party on purpose, because they say, oh, they're all a bunch of racists. Yeah. No, they're not. Yeah. What is the Tea Party? Yeah. Taxed enough already.
Exactly.
It's just for lower taxes. Exactly. And get out of my bedroom, and get out of my house, and get out of my mouth. I mean, they tell us what to eat.
Yeah. And a real Tea Partier is basically a libertarian when it comes down to it. And that's why when you see the establishment, Republicans and Democrats, they hate the Tea Party, because a real Tea Partier is a libertarian.
They don't hate it. They fear it.
They fear it. You're right. Sam, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, let me read you a quote from a true liberal, Thomas Jefferson. He says, "To compel a man to furnish funds for the propagation of ideas he disbelieves and adorns is sinful and tyrannical." Ooh. And that pretty much defines our welfare state in 2014 in California.
I agree.
Yeah, our founding fathers warned us about this. And that's why we go. And Thomas Jefferson, like Sam said, is a real liberal, a classical liberal. And even that's basically a libertarian, and it's basically conservative. There's aspects of all those that I would say a libertarian defines a liberal and a conservative mixed, but really a liberal who isn't for fiscal responsibility. I mean, really, you'd have to be a moron. Yeah, everyone,
even the Democrats are.
Yes, exactly.
You know, I think a lot of Democrats. I've been talking to a lot of my friends that are completely, because I'm in education.
Yeah.
They're all liberal. So I'm like the guy, the shining light in the darkness.
Yeah,
but what
I
I take that, you know, you guys aren't all from the dark side. But what I'm saying
they're misled. They're misinformed.
Their heart is in the right places, but their leaders like Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid have just polluted the water.
They're criminals.
They're criminals.
They're economically and financially illiterate, and the people and their leaders are criminals.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is when I start talking to people and tell them about what my views are, and because they're mostly for social issues, and it's all about feeling.
Exactly.
It's not. It's
about
how
emotion,
you feel
not about
emotions,
reason and logic.
not about. But if you tell them, look, we don't want to pay for all this stuff.
How do we pay for the welfare state?
Exactly.
Yeah,
they
do
go,
we do it?
oh,
How?
okay. Well, and when I tell them what a libertarian is, I go take that libertarian test on the internet, and then see what you fit. And most of them fit right in to moderate libertarian.
Yeah, and it's them. I think it's what they've decided to just say. They're listening to these people like Nancy Pelosi say, you know, I want welfare, and I want women's right to choose, and things that people may agree with. But really, those people, Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid, they're really just authoritarians, and they're misleading their base. So, and then you have on the other side people that are radically right, but also neocons that want to go to war. So if you disagree with going to war, and then you see Nancy Pelosi saying, "We want to help everyone. We're so liberal and loving."
Rand Paul for president.
Well, he's definitely our best option, and we know where he came from.
Yeah, I voted for Ron.
Oh, me too. So. He's one of my heroes.
Both sides, Republicans and Democrats, are playing us like suckers, and they know exactly what they're doing.
They're all a bunch of crooks.
They're all playing golf together at the country club at the end of the day, laughing at us.
They grease each other's palms behind the scenes.
Absolutely. And we need to, like you said, we need to get those people that are these bleeding heart liberals that, why is everything going wrong? Well, it's because you're not getting involved. Figure out what your leaders are lying. And even on the right, the leaders are lying. So
look
out.
Look at in the politics right now. Obama and everybody flat out lied about healthcare. And they're admitting it.
And guess what? Nothing's happening.
Sorry, you can't do anything about it.
Exactly.
You're screwed.
And we got to take a quick break, but and that's why we see with the Republicans gaining the Senate and the House, if none of that stuff gets repealed, we know it's a complete fraud. But anyway, Curtis, give out your website again and any last words before we go to break.
www.rollprinciple.com. My show is going to be on Friday nights, every Friday night from 7 to 8 on centralvalleytalk.com, and it's going to be sick. You got to come out.
Thank you so much for joining us, Curtis. And thank you for listening,
folks.
Thanks
for having me.
And we'll be we have another guest on the second half of this hour. Here's a word from our sponsors.
Supporting local businesses? Do you want to help them succeed? So do we. The Thrifty Nickel One Ads is a family-owned business that has been a big part of the local community for over 30 years. Our goal is not only to produce a paper that is not only successful, but enduring. We are looking for experienced outside sales representatives to help grow and expand the Central Valley's favorite classified paper while creating successful marketing campaigns that will increase business for their clients. If you care about better working relationships with local businesses, then we want to hear from you. 50% commission of every new contract acquired. If interested, contact Art at thriftynickeloneads.com or call 559-472-7182.
Listen up, Fresno. Are you tired of boring local news coverage? Then log on to FresnoForward.com, the Central Valley's #1 source for independent, local, and alternative news and views. FresnoForward.com is updated daily, bringing you stories on government corruption, local activism, Fresno culture, and so much more. Did I mention FresnoForward.com has no ads or signups required? FresnoForward.com. You'll love it.
We all know that a natural disaster, EMP attack, and martial law are a real possibility. Prepare before the crisis because FEMA can't and won't keep you safe. Tops Military Supply. Veterans serving veterans, their families, and the community. Visit us at 605 West Shaw, Suite A, Clovis, California, or call us at 559-298-6001.
Folks, we're back. This is We Are Change Fresno on 1680 AM. We just had a great interview with Curtis Shamlin, the rock and roll principal, on the first half of this hour. And now we have another in-studio guest to talk about false flags. It is Thermal Detonator, correct?
Yeah, DJ Thermal Detonator.
Oh, DJ Thermal Detonator.
Yeah, get a little closer to that mic there, Mr. DJ.
So let me just start off this section by reading the definition of false flag terrorism. False flag terrorism occurs when elements within a government stage a secret operation whereby government forces pretend to be a targeted enemy while attacking their own forces or people. WikiLeaks goes on to define false flag terrorism as false flag operations are covert operations conducted by governments, corporations, or other organizations which are designed to deceive the public in such a way that the operations appear as if they are being carried out by other entities.
We've seen it. Hitler burned his own building to blame it on the communists. We've seen it in back to the Roman Empire. I forgot what emperor it was, but blaming his, burning his. Who burned the city? Rome.
Nero.
Nero.
Well, Stuart, let me
go.
tell you where the term actually comes from. It comes from the old days of wooden ships when one ship would hang the flag of its enemy before attacking another ship in its own navy because the enemy's flag was hung instead of the flag of the real country of the attacking ship. It was called false flag attack.
There we go. So thermal detonator. Oh man, I love that thermal detonator.
It's actually it's a bomb device from Star Wars. Yeah,
that's where I recognize it from.
It's gotten more popular with the video games because now it's like a feature you can change on weapons on characters. So,
false flag. Let's get right into it. I mean, tell our audience about false flags. Get down to. If you want to go over specifics, you talk about. Obviously 9/11.
Well, you want to start on. You wanted to talk about Operation Northwoods, right?
Okay.
Well, we can basically start with 9/11 because obviously that's the greatest false flag of all.
Definitely.
It was documented. It was filmed at every single angle. We saw it. We saw the buildings blow up. Mm-hmm. We saw a third building.
Building 7. Yeah.
Third building also blow up. But actually, my thing is that there's been a lot of other evidence that's not talked about in the truth movement. It's been around for a while, and only a few people dare to write about it and dare to make films about it. And that's Israel's role behind 9/11. And that very hard for me to do this because I've never really done too many interviews like this. It's very, very hard for me to talk about this.
So what about Saudi Arabia? Was Saudi Arabia involved?
Yeah,
their government was clearly protecting Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not positive. But it sure seems like if the official version is correct about as far as hijacked planes, then sure, I could see that being involved. But there's a whole other twist to that as well too, because us Americans are not very, very savvy as far as how the Middle East works, and
they have no idea.
We have no idea how Israel was founded.
Yeah,
and
how it was set up.
Yeah,
after World War II. Yeah.
Yes, and I know how a lot of this movement is. I've been in this movement since 2007. I've been a member of We Are Change since 2008. We Are Change LA. Mm-hmm. Since 2008, I've been to Ground Zero. I've met people who were there. It was a very, very profound experience going there on a anniversary.
Yeah.
But my thing is that with groups like Architects and Engineers, and, great group.
Richard Gage,
and all that. Yeah. I know. I've met Richard a few times, and I know people who are part of the organization. And it's interesting to talk about the nanothermite. It's interesting to talk about the molten steel and all that, but it starts to get too exotic. It starts to
the average person just writes it off. It can be, even though it's the science. it's people write it off because they don't get it.
Yeah.
You know, they're like, oh, well, you know, and some government bureaucrat writes a book and says, oh, it's discredited, you know, or whatever. And people just say, oh, well, someone wrote a book about it. They're from the government.
You know, my opinion with NIST, you know, admitting that, well, we didn't even test for explosives, then I don't know how much of an FU you could actually get.
It's a complete fraud. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's an insult. Yeah. It's an actual
insult
to
the American people, to the people that died.
Yeah, I mean, to put out a whole book and and then we've seen all these explosions, we all this and this and that. And oh, well, we didn't even test for them.
Yeah, it's a slap in the face.
It's a slap in the face, and it's like I don't even understand why even going after that bureaucracy for it, going after them and hey, over and over and over, and then they finally admit building 7 later on. Yeah, that was another omission.
Yeah,
finally
they can't deny it.
So my thing is that why don't we talk about all the Israelis arrested on 9/11? Why don't we talk about the fact that there was a truck packed full of bombs with 2 Israelis arrested on the George Washington Bridge? Why don't we talk about the other truck that blew up?
Stuff that the media is. I've never even heard that before.
Well,
you know what I mean? And that's the problem. It's not being talked about.
Well, it's been out there. The information's been out there. It's been roughly talked on a few films. I've compiled it myself. I've got a little demonstration film I probably will show to you guys later on. To verify the claims I'm making right now.
Yeah.
This was reported that there were 5. I'm sure you know about the 5 dancing Israelis. You've never heard about it?
I can't recall, Sam.
Yes, I've heard of it. Well, we know there was a lot of drills going on that day, and a lot of people do say that all these intelligence agencies, such as Israel from Mossad and whatever, MI6. I don't even know what Saudi Arabia's is, and then a bunch of U.S. intelligence agencies and a bunch of other intelligence agencies were all running different drills that day, and so you could see how.
Yeah.
You could see how all this could be potential parts of the actual attack on the World Trade Center, but then a lot of it could be also just part of some drill. And that's what they used to confuse the issue to allow the attack to happen.
Yeah, and the aeronautical impossibilities of 9/11. I mean, there were lesser. I mean, I'm not saying it wasn't a catastrophe. It was was shocking, but most of the people did die in New York. And most of the deaths did occur because of the controlled demolition.
Yeah.
The aeronautical possibilities are something or possibilities. They could have been possible.
Yeah.
That's that can be looked into further. But for what we know happened in New York is damning enough already.
Yeah.
And to be going after exotic explosives, I mean exotic things like nanothermite, which they can't even produce to.
Yeah.
Why aren't we going after the
stuff that's already there? I mean, it's already out in the open, like you said. I mean, it's been documented.
After the 10-year anniversary, there was the Freedom of Information Act released all the police reports from New Jersey and from.
Did they?
Yes,
wow.
And
so that's available.
Yes,
for people,
and I'll send you guys the links.
Yeah.
It's right there. It says. Part of the inventory is caught with explosives, caught with maps, caught with knives, box cutters.
Yeah.
Muslim garb.
Yeah.
I mean, all this stuff. And they were arrested amongst about 160 other Israelis were arrested later on. This was reported.
In New York?
And all around the East Coast, in New York and in New Jersey.
Oh, wow.
And
Washington, D.C.?
Yes, some of these Israelis were watching some of the hijackers. There were neighbors to some of the hijackers.
Wow.
Okay,
You mean for where the hijackers were living?
Yes.
Oh, wow. That's very peculiar.
Well, we do know that it wasn't Osama bin Laden in a cave from Afghanistan
operating on his,
that made it all happen all by himself, like the mainstream media tells us the narrative is. We know that it's really a lot more complicated and sophisticated than that.
It's a lot more sophisticated, but they're all over the place. It's in the whole thing. And here's the other thing, and this is the most amazing thing. If people listening right now, Google it yourself. Fox News. Israeli spying. Fox News in December of 2001, a few months after 9/11, they had a 4-part series with Brent Hume and Carl Cameron of them reporting this whole spy ring they busted. And this was the largest spy ring ever caught on American soil. No country has ever spied on us any more than
Except for our own government.
So, and you also understand. You need to understand to pull off 9/11. You have to have the best. It has to be the best spies.
Yeah.
It has to be the best espionage.
Yeah.
And that's one of my other angles too, is that 9/11 research has not been looking at espionage. It's not been looking at the modern, the history of modern terrorism. And I guess I can, I think if I keep going on more and more about this, there's all kinds of info I can give you. But to get to the point of Operation Northwoods and false flags, so we can get into that. Well, where Lemitzer was the one who wrote it, right? Right, and it was in '63. It was declassified. It was obviously we know about it. It's wired, remote control. Planes, it says in there, hijacking, bombings, all this stuff, all these crazy
public shootings,
all that stuff.
And stuff.
Where do they get these ideas from? Now, there's more unfortunate truths. Modern terrorism was basically created in Israel. Was started by Israelis, and by Zionist Jews going over there and founding Israel during the time between Britain and Palestine. I don't know all the entire histories, but I've been looking over it for the last few years, and I've looked more into the military aspect, or their militia terrorist aspects. And Israel, and I've got some of the stuff printed out. The first the first modern false flaggings happened with a terrorist group called Irgun. Irgun started, I believe, in '38, and they were a group that broke off from another previous paramilitary group called I'm sorry, I can't pronounce it right. Haganah. And I've got a whole list of Irgun attacks from 1937 to 1948. Several of these attacks that I will mention are actually very much first times of bombings and stuff. Well, let's see. In 1937, on March 2nd, two Arabs were killed. Arabs were killed on Bat Yam Beach. November in 1937, the Arabs killed by Irgun units launching attacks around Jerusalem, Black Sunday. Now, if you could take a look. There's a whole list. There's that actual Wikipedia page. You can look it up yourself.
Of them, of this group from Israel.
Yes, this became the IDF. This is now the Israeli military. Okay, they basically. Do you know about the King David the King David Hotel bombing?
No.
Okay. Let me because I don't know it all offhand. It's kind of out there.
And so these are false flag attacks carried out by Israeli military to blame Muslim groups.
And they blew up their own many times. Blowing up their own. They
to blame it on your enemy.
To blame it on your enemy.
Other political factions within.
What's the United States? I mean, because this is all I've been hearing about since I was a little kid, is that we must protect Israel. So what is the relationship then there? I mean, does Israeli have some huge pull from the U.S.? I mean, how? I mean. Obviously, there's a relationship there. So why, why do we protect Israel so much? And people always say, well, they'll be blown up by Iran or a bunch of garbage. Even though we have Middle Eastern countries fighting with each other. I mean, it's like, really, yes, anyone. I mean, Israel has nukes. I mean, they can defend themselves. And I don't want to give them $300 million every time Congress meets. Of my money.
Yeah.
So what is the relationship there? I mean, does Israel run our political system? I mean, how? I mean, it seems that, and I'm not trying to demonize Jews.
There's a lot of claims, a lot of conspiracy theorists that want to blame everything on the Jews. It's all the Zionist Jews.
I'm aware of that.
And there are a lot of top bankers whose last name happens to be Jewish, but
and actors and et cetera, et cetera.
Et cetera, et cetera. A lot of elite people, but that still doesn't say that it's just the Jews.
Exactly. Yeah. Why is America or the United States so why are we so
gung ho for Israel?
Gung ho, yeah. What is
it's it's the whole thing of World War II and being the policeman of the world, assumingly, and that we went over there for noble causes and all this. Other stuff is all from old time war propaganda.
Yeah.
You know, if you, the best I can tell you is I don't want to get into all into that.
Yeah.
Because we can, but
Yeah.
but all I can tell you is you've been lied to the last 13 years,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
And we have way more
We know-
media
yeah.
than
The war
we
on
did,
terror-
we did,
the
than
war
we
on
did in the
terror.
40s, right?
Oh yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
do you think that they told everything
Yeah.
they told us about World War II
Of
and
course,
Germany is
absolutely, yes.
correct?
Misinformation, disinformation,
Yes.
lies,
Propaganda.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into all that, but why? Well, let me give you an example. There's and I hate to reference other people, but I'm going to reference even Louis Farrakhan. I'm not that I'm a follower, not that I'm a
he says
Muslim, or
some-
not
yeah,
that he
yeah,
says
yeah.
some controversial things, but. Years ago in a sermon, he said something, and when I know we all know this one. What happened in 1913?
The Federal
World War
Reserve.
One.
Yeah.
Assassination.
Federal
of-
Reserve. No, Federal Reserve.
Okay.
Yeah. And then World War
And
One.
then World War
Yep,
One.
yep.
No, World War One was a couple years later.
1914.
No, but
the
then we
wheels
didn't get
started
into
turning.
that till 1917,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's when the Lusitania.
Well, when the United States got it.
Europe was already starting in 1914, but there's a meaning of that. But it's not only that. In 1913, you had the Fed, you had
And
the
the income
IRS,
tax, yeah.
Yep.
right?
Yep. Income tax.
And then there's a third one a lot of people don't realize is we had the FBI.
yeah.
The FBI started in 1913.
Yeah.
Well, there's something else that started in 1913. That's called the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League.
Yep.
That started in 1913. Now, well, you have the Fed, which is
Well, are you being
controlling all the currency.
anti-Semitic by saying that?
What's that?
Are you being anti-Semitic by mentioning the ADL?
Yeah, just by mentioning it.
Well,
you must be a
it's-
racist, right?
No, but that's the whole other thing. Now, when
Yeah.
you're talking about why do we have this relationship, why is it? Well, that's the whole thing, man. They are
Heavily infiltrated in our government.
Unfortunately, they are just an extra hand of the FBI and CIA. They are. I can refer you to several books that are very, very well documented.
Yeah.
They've infiltrated John Birch Society. They've infiltrated the communist groups and the anti-communist
Yeah,
groups. They created the anti-war groups. They
control both sides of the opposition, and so they can control the outcome.
Exactly. So there is your control of the media. It's
And in Hollywood too. We
Well,
know
that's what I
heavily-
meant.
yeah,
That's what I mean.
Media, Hollywood.
Hollywood is a mob.
Yeah,
In my
yeah.
opinion, the way I look at it, it's the mob. That's what
Yeah.
the mob. That's what the mob moved into.
Yeah,
That's what it
yeah.
elevated to from and that is that's that has to do with a lot with Israel's relationship. Believe it or not. I think a person you should even look into is a man named Arnon Milken. He's a film producer and a backer, and he produced many films. He's an Israeli, and he confessed just last year that he was a spy for Israel all this time, also
Wow.
working for weapons. And he was friends. He's friends with not Robert De Niro, but no, he's friends with. I'm sorry, I'm thinking of Al Pacino. It's Robert De Niro. He's even friends with Robert De Niro, and they interviewed Robert De Niro on this, and he admits to it. Yeah, he told me he was a spy.
Yeah.
This man funded numerous movies, and he was working for a weapons. For a huge weapons company for Israel.
So isn't the media at this point, Hollywood, just the propaganda arm of the military-industrial complex?
It pretty much is, and that's the problem. And I think what you guys are doing right now is we need to make other new media. We need to have a separate
Alternative
media because we need to have something that's for our national interests. That's not for military, not for anything that's.
Yeah.
Well, there's a massive amount of history and information out there, and we're fed this very narrow, streamlined, mainstream view of things. And if you talk outside of that box, you're automatically called racist, anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
You're just a bad person for just bringing up some history and asking some questions that don't follow the mainstream narrative.
Yes. One thing I do wanted to mention, I wanted to talk about with the false flags is that
I want to mention with the false flags real quick.
Yeah.
The Gulf of Tonkin killed 58,000 Americans, over a million Vietnamese, and that attack never happened. And that's all on record. I challenge anyone to look it up. That's a great sin against the youth of America in the 1960s.
yes. And we can also talk about the attack of the USS Liberty, and that happened off the coast of Israel in 1967, and it was a intelligence ship that was attacked for 2 hours. They killed over 38 sailors, and wounded over 100. There's only a few people alive now, and actually one of them just passed away in August, and he was actually from Visalia.
Wow.
I remember that. I remember reading about that.
Yeah. And that's a whole other thing. I mean, that was bad. I mean, but that was a whole other backdoor with with LBJ. And
and so what was that? Now that was the Israeli Air Force.
It was during the 2-week war. There was a 2-week war going on with Egypt. It was basically for us to get. They wanted us to get
go attack Egypt.
Yeah. The
United States Navy.
Yeah.
And so Israel bombed our
own ship for 2 hours. Yeah, that ship had its flag out. It was obvious it was American. It was American. It was evident, and they went in there. They even sent PT cruiser boats. Were shooting at them. I mean, it was insane, and they didn't even get LBJ called back their help. They ended up coming back by themselves, wounded. I mean, the whole ship was destroyed. I mean, you've seen pictures of it, I'm sure. But the one thing I was going to say about this, this is a very interesting thing. In 1946, July 22nd, 91 people were killed at the King David Hotel bombing, mostly civilians, staff at the hotel and a secretariat, 41 Arabs, 15 to 28 British citizens, 17 Palestinian Jews, 2 Armenians, 1 Russian, 1 Greek, and one Egyptian. The blowing up of the government offices with their civilian employees and visitors first carried out by the Zionists against the British in Jerusalem. Menachem Begin, who masterminded and carried out the attack, and later became Israeli prime minister.
Wow. That's interesting.
Yeah, and there's actually a BBC documentary. You can check it out. It's called "The Age of Terror." It's from 2002, and you will see another a member of Irgun. This was the terrorist group that I just mentioned. His name is Isaac Zodok. In Hebrew, he's explaining how he rigged it all up, but gleefully and just no problem. Now, that was actually the first actual major building bombing. That was the first terrorist attack like that, as far as
modern terrorism.
Yes, this is very, very much so. They're also involved with doing the first car bombings, first mail bombings.
Yeah.
But here's one of the most interesting things. Is this? This is a very famous person. I mean, obviously, I was born in '72, so a lot of baby boomers will recognize this guy because he was on the media, and he's covered very well. His name was Moshe Dayan. In 1954, December 12th, there was a Syrian airliner hijacked by Israel. This was the first time a airliner was hijacked. Okay. The first political. This is the first.
And he wears an eye patch. He looks like your stereotypical bad guy right out of a
Yes,
James
he was
Bond
wounded.
movie.
He was wounded. There's numerous books on this man. His name is Moshe Dayan. There's videos you can look for it, old stuff. This guy was cold-hearted. This guy had no problem. I mean, and he this eye patch. This was from another incident had happened. There's a whole other story about this itself. Now, that's hijacking. I mean, this is definitely, and these people got a lot of chutzpah. And if you don't know what chutzpah is it's a Hebrew term. It's from Wikipedia. Is the quality of audacity of good or for bad. The Yiddish word derives from the Hebrew word chutzpah, meaning insolence, chic, or audacity. The modern English usage of the word has taken on broader meaning, having been popularized through vernacular use in film, literature, and television. The word is sometimes interpreted, particularly in business parlance, as meaning the amount of courage, mettle, or ardor that an individual has. Or, however, in more traditional usage, chutzpah has a negative connotation. And these people have the chutzpah to do these things. And there's a lot more. I will eventually tell you more as far as what great lengths
it goes.
They will do. So now back to Operation Northwoods. Where do you think they got the ideas from?
From the Israelis?
Well, yes, because also another man named Netz wrote it with him, and later they became key Israeli lobby contacts.
Yeah. So Israel is just in general. Israel's heavily involved in basically creating terrorism throughout the modern world. I mean, in modern history.
I'm pretty much convinced our CIA ain't nothing compared to the Mossad.
I want to specify,
and I really
though,
mean that. I really mean
I want
that.
to specify, though, it's not the general Joe Blow citizen of Israel we're talking about.
It's not.
We're talking about the Israeli
fanatical Zionists.
Fanatical Zionists that happen to be high up in intelligence agencies.
And their ethnicity might be Israeli.
Yes,
or
it just
they
happens
to be Jewish as well as Israeli.
Yes.
Yes,
it's
not really a religious. I guess it's the Zionist thing is a religion. So you don't really have to be Israeli.
And they use the Jews, your everyday Joe Blow Jew, as cover. Yeah.
As one Jewish author wrote as his title of his book, and I totally agree, is Zionism is the enemy of the Jews.
Yeah. Oh, I completely agree. Because we're not talking about the average Joe Blow. I mean, most people in the world are just good-hearted people. I mean, there's probably about 10%.
They just want to have a family, make a living, and try to live a decent life.
They're not running
hijacking
the Federal
planes.
Reserve. They were blowing up buildings.
There were Jews living there well before this whole mandate happened. Before there were British there, they lived there peacefully. This whole thing was started by. That goes into another story. It goes with. His name is I forget he was. They actually say he was actually an atheist that actually created the whole Zionist movement. And this, unfortunately, has to do with the Rothschilds too. You do know that.
They're all kind of
overlay. The Balfour Declaration was
authored by the Rothschilds. Aren't they the personification of evil? The Rothschilds.
It seems that all these little groups are involved in each other within each other.
The central banking system is a closed loop, and we know that the Rothschilds run the central banking system.
Yeah, pretty much. They do, and I think even when we're blaming, when we're looking at Rockefellers and a lot of the other ones, those are all the small fronts. I mean, look, when Warburg died and when J.P. Morgan died, they was found out that they only owned 20% of their assets. Yeah. Who owned the rest? Probably the most likely the Rothschilds. Yeah. And I don't even think the Rockefellers have as much power in this country as they used to. They really don't. Yeah. But they do, and that's pretty much is that Israel is pretty much like their weapons factory from the Middle East to just basically take on more of old Babylon. That's why we're also in Iraq as well. Yeah.
No, and the general public's being deceived. Folks, we've been in the Middle East too long. Even before 9/11, most people don't know their history. Israelis are obviously heavily involved. They're very intelligent people, these Zionists, so they're heavily involved in our government and theirs running these operations, and we need to talk about it. We need to be the alternative voice, not just the mainstream Fox News, support Israel no matter what. But, folks, we got to take a quick break going into our second hour. Any last words? Got 8 seconds.
No, thanks for allowing me on here.
Read up on false flags.
Yeah.
This show is sponsored by We Are Change Fresno. This show is sponsored by We Are Change Fresno.
Folks, we're back. This is We Are Change Fresno on 1680 AM. We're going into our second hour. Man, that first hour was
riveting.
Riveting. That's the word. We had the rock and roll principle.
Breathtaking.
And we also had Thermal Detonator talking about some false flags and the Israelis.
Awesome.
And honestly, though, I mean, it's a lot of stuff. There's so much information now, and our access to information is at the tip of our fingertips, but we care about watching football. And I think people need to get more excited about the world that we live in, the reality. I mean, we are living in a science fiction film. We are living in a movie. We're battling demons. We're battling evil. So be on the right side of history and start doing some research and, you get your heart right. And then start being an agent for good, okay? And you can't do that when you're just sitting around watching, reruns of
Smurfs.
Yeah, I mean, you got to get up off your butt and inspire some people, talk to people, research, stay physically fit. I mean, that's important.
Yeah, that's
honestly.
true.
I mean, mind, body, and soul. Okay, and so we're here to do that and to get you inspired to get up and make a change, be the change you want to see in the world. And regardless of what you think about. Jews running the world. Obviously, we don't feel that that's if you're Jewish, you are somehow involved in this massive conspiracy. But there's a lot of evidence to ties to the Israelis, Israeli government, their intelligence agencies that have infiltrated our government, Hollywood, media. I mean, all aspects of this country and probably
Banking.
other countries. And banking, very important, the Federal Reserve, and also ran false flag operations for decades, as we talked about on the first hour, all over the Middle East. And so the Israelis are very intelligent people. I mean, they're very successful people. And so they're obviously, yes, of course,
they're in the mix of
they're
all
in the
this
mix of all this
New
stuff.
World Order,
yeah. And it doesn't mean if you have Israeli blood, you're somehow involved. No, that's not what we're saying. We're just pointing out that there's a certain group, and that may be, that is a certain ethnicity that is involved in a lot of this stuff. And so we do need to address that. Now, is that all of our problems? No, I disagree with that. So we can't just blame everything. Like Sam said, we can't just blame
it on the Jews.
We can't do that. But it's very interesting to see how our government complies with Israel and the relationship we have with Israel and the media, how we will go to great lengths, basically
to never talk bad about Israel.
To never talk bad about Israel, to protect Israel no matter what, even though they can defend themselves, and then they blame it on the Middle East, saying that Iran will blow up Israel. Well, if Iran wants to blow up Israel, they can. Of course, Israel could blow them up too. So the thing is, we can't just speculate and say we have to, no matter what, be in every single country policing the world because someone might blow up something.
Mutually assured destruction.
Exactly. So, and also, we've been in these countries way before 9/11, and so the public needs to know about that. We're just trying to talk about that. That's all we're saying. We are, Sam and I are not government agents trying to persuade you to, hate the Jews or be pro-Israel. I mean, we're just trying to give analysis, have interesting conversations, go over some news, current affairs, and give our analysis. We just want freedom and liberty.
For America.
Yeah, just American values, the Bill of Rights, Constitution. Okay, I want, like Sam said earlier, you just want a family to be able to work hard and provide for them and to enjoy this mortality that we have.
Well, we're fighting for our air quality tomorrow, Stuart, and this show's going to air on Saturday. We're recording it on Wednesday. Yeah. But tomorrow, to put it on public record, there is 3 minutes of public comment at the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District meeting, and it's on their website, and I'm going to go tomorrow. I hope some other activists who care about clean air and the pollution in the valley here, which is the most polluted place in the United States, I hope other people go give their 3 minutes of public comment. I'm going to address the board about the subject of geoengineering, which is the elephant in the room about pollution and the water crisis, and it needs to be brought to the public's attention. So I'm going to do my civic duty as a patriotic American and give them my 3 minutes of comment about geoengineering. And we will report on the outcome of that meeting on next week's show.
Tell the truth.
Yeah, and how do you get on that agenda again to talk?
They stonewalled me, and they would not give me access to an item on their agenda.
Yeah, their agenda, I'm looking at it right now. I printed it out. This is such a bureaucratic nightmare of, what exactly is the Air Board of Supervisors?
It's a giant con job is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, we pay these people to have a job.
But it's taxpayer funded.
Taxpayer funded
agency.
You are paying for people to basically do nothing. To allot funds, to approve spending of our money to go to some special interest of testing the air or some other baloney.
It's a front. It's a front so they can act like they care about clean air when they care about nothing but screwing over the taxpayers.
Yeah, and we are paying for them to live. I don't know what their salary is, but here's an agenda item that they're going to cover. Allocate an additional $2 million in funding for continued implementation of the highly successful Burn Cleaner Incentive Program to support the district's efforts to reduce the impacts of residential wood burning. So they want to stop us from they don't want us burning fire in our own homes because it pollutes the air. So, yeah, of course, then they have a monopoly on...
As we're being aerosol sprayed
by
heavy metals.
Aerosol sprayed. They want to address that. And they want to put a carbon tax on it. Man. Exactly. Fluoridation of the water. But it really is, it's just to feel, like Sam said, it's just to feel good about, we're bureaucrats. We're going to have...
We care about you.
We're going to give $2 million of your money, even though we'll shave, whatever our salaries are. We get paid on top of that. Bonuses, just for being good bureaucrats. We're just going to, give $2 million to a clean burn incentive program. To help efforts to reduce the impacts of residential wood burning. I don't know how they're going to actually how can we know that that's actually happening?
It's to create the snitch culture. They want neighbors snitching on neighbors, saying my neighbor was burning wood in his fireplace. Send a cop over there, code enforcement, whatever. Give them a fine for trying to keep warm.
Yeah, they will not address geoengineering. And you know what? Someone at the meeting should ask them. How much do you get paid, and what do you actually do? Because all this stuff, I just don't see actually how they have a job. That's why the free market's so important, and we need to get rid of these bureaucrats, because we're paying for them to just allocate our money to other bureaucrats.
To grandstand, give each other awards, and steal our money.
Yeah, and I think there's like on the agenda, there's something like, oh, here we go, accept and appropriate $677,214 in additional revenue from the United States Environmental Protection Agency to fund the replacement of medium-duty trucks. So either way, both of those agencies, I mean, the Environmental Protection Agency is illegal, unconstitutional. It's a bureaucracy, and we are paying for all this. And they don't do anything to pay for trucks. It's all a transfer of wealth to special interests, and so just them having a job is a special interest, in my opinion. Now,
it's a mind control bureaucracy
that doesn't do anything. I mean, what do they do?
They won't address the public professionally. I called everybody they said to call. They will not give me a member of the public, a tax-paying member of the public, a chance to get an item on their agenda. It's ridiculous how they treat you. And after the last meeting that we went to in September, after 6 people went up and gave their testimony, their 3 minutes of public comment about geoengineering, they proceeded to ignore everything we said and then give each other an award right after that.
Yeah, they literally, on the agenda, I'm looking right now, they give they give themselves awards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Stuart, let's move on and get off of that, and we'll report more on that next week.
It's unbelievable.
Into the war in the Middle East. We just sent 1,500 more American troops for boots on the ground in Iraq. Unconstitutionally, I don't even know how Obama can get away with this. He's the commander-in-chief. He's acting like a dictator at this point. Little do American people know that this war in Iraq was started out as a humanitarian mission, or maybe people remember, I don't know, the attention span of the average American is very short.
Operation Iraqi Freedom.
But the most recent one was framed as a humanitarian mission. The goal of its first bombing run was to save the Yazidis, a group few Americans had heard of until then, from genocide at the hands of the Islamic State, or ISIS or Al Qaeda. Within a few weeks, however, a full-scale bombing campaign was underway against ISIS, ISIL, all across Iraq and Syria, with its own coalition of the willing and 1,600 U.S. military troops on the ground. And down the slippery slope we go into a third war in Iraq.
Yeah, Ron Paul calls it Iraq 3.0. Can anything go right? He says in the article. Well, no, nothing can go right. I think we've already allocated 1,500 troops. The president has, so we are on the ground there. I mean,
double. There's 3,000 there.
Oh, now because it was first 1,500, then another.
There's all kinds of contractors there, and we don't even know what is off the books.
Yeah, but remember, they said no troops on the ground. There will be no boots on the ground. It'll only be drones, et cetera, et cetera. Not that I agree with that. But yeah, so we've been involved in Iraq it's not just since
war
2003.
Was never declared by Congress. All this is unconstitutional. It's all illegal.
Yeah, when Sam sent me all these links, while I'm reading these links, I'm just thinking, man, why are we still talking about this? We do not, and I'm saying we need to talk about it, because as a country, we need to stop talking about ISIL, ISIS, whatever you want to call it, terrorism. We need to get out of every country now and secure our borders. Not even just secure our borders, bring our troops home. It's all unconstitutional, though. There's no goal. There's no end goal. That's why war's not declared, because there's no goal. There's no clear goal. The
only goal
no clear enemy.
Is to blow stuff up so that we can buy more bombs from the military-industrial complex.
Yeah, and we're help funding the Free Syrian Army, which is, half of those or more are ISIS rebels. We're paying them more than the Syrian government army is getting paid. And so but also the thing is, we created all these terrorists, and people say that's ridiculous. No, well, the reason that there are so many terrorists and these Islamic, radical Islamic factions is because we've been in the Middle East for like 40 years. It's unbelievable. Learn some history, read some congressional record or something. Start researching this stuff. You think that we just invaded Iraq in 2003? No, we have had sanctions on them. For decades.
It's not for our freedom.
And it's not for our freedom. That's the most important part. We have no business there.
And this establishment doesn't give a damn about the troops. They get blown up over there. And just like we just had Veterans Day, right? Everybody's waving the flag. Thank you, troops. Thank you, troops. That's baloney. Those people are mind control victims that are the troops. And the guys calling the shots are never in harm's way. It's the poor that go over there and get blown up, and then when they come back to America, they can't even get adequate medical care. They get put on a death list at the VA.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, so we're supposed this is the problem, is that we go in there saying, "Oh, we're going to help the Iraqi government get their country together." Yeah, it's all, like Sam said, it's all humanitarian. Oh, we're just going there to help. Well, no, that's not what happens. What happens is more terrorists are created, governments become even more unstable, and then 250,000 Iraqi troops can't even handle 7,000 ISIS members, apparently. Because you know why? Because they don't even want to fight for their Iraqi government, because they're in bed. Certain elements of them are in bed with the military-industrial complex. No one can trust anyone. You've got ethnic groups fighting in those countries. No Americans understand any of that, okay? But yet we're over there thinking that we can do something.
American flag, good.
Terrorist bad. Muslim terrorist bad. Okay, yeah, no, that's
Man
the
in
extent.
Black ski mask bad.
Yes, Mortal Kombat costume mask bad. So we need to just stop being so ignorant and learn a little bit about the history of the Middle East and why we've been there. And because there didn't used to be terror. People think that just the Middle Eastern countries and Muslims from the Middle East have just been terrorizing countries all over for the beginning of time. That's not the case. Okay, and like we just went over in the first hour with thermal detonator, I mean, the Israelis have been involved in a lot of false flag terrorism over the years, over this last century, okay, and they've been involved in terrorism. So why is it that we just demonize the Middle East or the Islamic radicals? We helped create them, and we actually, I mean, there's CIA over there working with these radicals. We know the 9/11 military contractors. We know Saudi Arabia was involved with 9/11, but that's never been addressed really by the mainstream media. I mean, there's never been an honest discussion about it. And we went to war with a country that never attacked us, that we had sanctions on for years, decades. We helped fund Saddam, and I'll continue to push this. Saddam, we funded him against Iran, and then we come back and say that he's a bad guy. I mean, when he doesn't do what he wants. We just have puppet dictators, and then the American public is so ignorant and stupid. And I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm just saying, look, me too. That's why I have to study every day, because I don't want to be a moron. Because then when we're enslaved, we have, I don't want to make an excuse, oh, I didn't know. No, you need to wake up, and we need to get out of the Middle East. I mean, why are we still talking about actually seriously having a discussion about how we are trying to fight another ghost group, Sam? A terrorist group. I mean, when's the next one? When is it going to end? Is there an end in sight to getting out of the Middle East? I mean, do we literally? Is there no end?
When you don't officially declare war, then there will be no end, and it's been stated that the war on terror is a perpetual war that can never end.
There's no clear goal, no clear enemy, so it can never end, because there always will be an enemy. Because you haven't stated the enemy, anyone can be the enemy.
Well, they're declaring us the enemy as domestic terrorists. The chickens that have come home to roost.
Yep.
We're all on list. Everybody's profiled. Why do you think they're militarizing the police?
Yeah, because once they can't push the narrative of the Middle East causing all our problems and being attacking our freedom, because we have none anymore. It's going to be moved to here.
Domestic groups like the Tea Party libertarians, people with Christian identity.
People that store food.
We are chained.
Yeah, we're already on the hate list. They have the hate groups. So we're listed as the terrorists now because we've been so ignorant. So instead of burying your head in the sand, get up off your butt and do something. Speak out against the war.
They date rape you. The TSA date rapes you at the airport.
Is that one of the articles? I did not see that. Wow. I wouldn't put it past them. These people that work and the bureaucracy that's just decaying morally. I mean, who knows? They'll put up with anything. They'll put up with anything. We need to get out of war. There needs to be and like our guest said earlier, where's the anti-war movement? Liberals, Democrats, where are you for war? Because you're not speaking out against it, so you're just okay with it now.
When did being conservative mean that you're for illegal foreign wars of aggression?
Illegal foreign wars of
that's
aggression.
Just wasting
spending
more
taxpayers' money
than any welfare mom ever could dream of.
I agree. We gave $225 million this year to Israel. Just gave it to him. Just there you go.
Up over there.
Oh, there you go. There you go, Israel. Israel can't provide for itself. Ron Paul, start reading Ron Paul books.
All foreign aid
is welfare.
Yes.
And it's even worse than domestic. I mean, we spend more on military. People say you're not pro-military. No, I'm pro.
We're funding all of them. Israel, ISIS, Saudi Arabia, Iraq. We go there, blow it up, fund them to build it back up, to blow it up again. I mean, it's utterly ridiculous. All on the back of the taxpayers we're looking at almost an $18 trillion debt now.
Yeah, we funded Israel, I think it was the 80s, 70s or 80s. We funded them fighting Lebanon, and then we gave Lebanon aid, humanitarian aid. So we're funding both sides. You can't do that. There's never an end to it because
immoral.
It's immoral. It's controlled. It's controlled, simulated fighting. But real people die. But it's the people that are pulling the strings, that are in charge. They run everything, okay? And they make money. It's that war makes money. War is a racket, like we've gone over, and it makes a lot of money, and not for you. You don't own massive amounts of stock in Halliburton or whoever's funding it.
In military-industrial complex companies.
So if someone wants to come in on a debate or even call in and complain or leave comments, you tell me what's so good about war. If you can give me 10
If you want to complain about it, you go fight the war.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not going to go fight the war for this evil empire.
Yeah, but I will defend myself and my family in my home because the Constitution says I can. And if China, by the way, folks, and I was explaining this to people, if China just decided to, do a soft takeover of Fresno, California, and the Valley, we're just taking it over. It's no big deal. We're just because we think that there's Chinese people here, anti-communists. We're just gonna have to take this area over, and we now control this area. But it's humanitarian. Guess what? Who would be the terrorists? You bet your butt. You bet your bottom dollar. The gun owners are going to be the terrorists because you're going to defend yourself. Because when a Chinaman, I guess that's not politically correct. When a communist foreign entity comes in here and takes over your city, and they say, no, you have to do what we say.
Go to the camp.
Yeah, you have to go to the camp, like in Red Dawn. You're going to be declared the terrorist just for being an American or just having a gun, not conforming, not complying with what they want. So guess what? We are doing that in the Middle East. So if you think that's okay, you better be okay when it happens here, just to let you know. So since you're being ignorant and stupid right now, saying, oh, no, we need to be in every country because we are America and we're good, America good, Middle East bad. Well, when China comes over and says you owe us a lot of money and also we just don't like you, we have a huge army, we have a lot of people, we're just going to take over California and you can't do anything about it. And guess what? You're going to say, well, sorry. That's what I'm going to say. Well, sorry, you should have stand up and fought the info war. But instead you were ignorant. Sorry for that rant, but geez, are we ever going to get out of the perpetual state of war?
Sure, the Obama administration has approved tens of millions of dollars to pay, quote, vetted Syrian rebels. Specifically, They will pay a salary of $150 a month to ISIS and the U.S.-backed Free Syrian Army FSA al-Nusra Front.
So there you go. We are literally paying the salary of terrorists that we helped create. And these terrorists over there in the Middle East, most of them are just looking for a job because we've destroyed their economy too. And you know what? ISIS, I was reading, they actually operate more like a government. They collect taxes. I mean, they're just setting up a government there because you know what? People need jobs, and people want to work for them because it's lucrative. I mean, to work for ISIS over there when hey, it's either you join them or you die. And I'm not saying that's good. I'm just saying that we are if ISIS would have no one to fight and no incentive to fight if we were not over there stirring up trouble. Okay? People don't just want to go blow stuff up. Okay? But you know what evil people really do? They fund both sides of wars, control the conflict, make a lot of money, destroy the family, destroy your liberties, and then tell you that you're bad for not supporting it and making you feel guilty, and then thinking that they have the moral high ground, and then worshiping Satan, things like that, sacrificing children, running child sex
slavery rings.
Yeah, involved in the worst things ever.
Corps.
That's the real terrorist, not these low-level people that just need food and a job in the Middle East that say, well,
who's another terrorist war criminal? It's Tony Blair.
Yep.
That's the former Prime Minister of England. If you're not familiar with him, he is an open trader, signing record prices for oil with the Saudi government to sell to the Chinese.
Yeah, and we see all these high level.
But we're supposed to be allies with England in the American.
What's the word? A coalition. The peacekeeping coalition. Oh yeah, we're fighting the terrorists.
Anglo-American establishment.
Yeah, and we're supposed to be, help fighting, keeping the peace.
The same country fought a revolutionary war for our independence against.
Yeah, and all these people, all these high-level government elites.
They're New World Order operatives. What they are.
Yeah, New World. That's a better way to put it. It's not government operatives. New World Order operatives. I mean, these are
they don't represent the people of their own government, of their own sovereign country.
No, they don't care. They will literally. They don't care. And Bush admitted that. I mean, it's admitted. There was no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. We went in there for no reason. They didn't attack us. And even if they try to cite a UN violation of a UN resolution, the UN has no authority. And Iraq didn't even violate the UN resolution that was already illegal anyway. You can't just put resolution. The UN has no authority over sovereign countries. And they weren't even violating the UN resolution, the no-fly zone. There wasn't even a no-fly zone in I think it's UN resolution 688. It's in Ron Paul's book. Go read it. But yeah, I mean, Tony Blair, look, he's a war criminal just like Bush, and they have a vested interest in war. They make money off it. Okay,
it's obvious.
They do deals. Yeah,
I mean, this report's alleging he's making like $40,000 a month plus 2% commission on these backdoor oil deals, rigging the oil market prices. It's out of this world. These are your James Bond supervillain criminals.
Absolutely, and that's the movies that actually talk about these kind of criminals are the movies that really do a good job, because this is how the real world works. Criminals don't just walk around, real thugs that really...
They wear suits and ties.
They wear suits and ties, exactly. They don't walk around selling drugs on the street with a gun. No, that's someone who's barely trying to make a living.
These guys have armed... Tony Blair had the whole British military at his disposal.
Exactly. He had a whole army, and you know where his intentions were. His own personal gain, his own profit, to put other people's lives at risk.
He doesn't give a damn about English troops on the ground, boots on the ground. He wants them dead.
And one more thing about England... I've been seeing all these this Facebook, Lancaster Police of England or something, some city in London or England. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. But they're posting on Facebook, literally the nanny state is England now, because they have turn in your knives day now. The police is saying, turn in your knives. Like it's a nanny state. They will arrest you for self-defense. You cannot own a knife now, or a weapon in general. And they think, and literally, we are so mind control. Like literally, the general public. If I was a criminal, I would stand next to that knife dispensing area where people get rid of their knives. And when you turn in your knife, I would just literally take all your stuff. You can't defend yourself. I mean, the criminals now know who to target specifically now, because remember, criminals don't follow the law. They don't turn it, and even though that law is illegal, it still doesn't matter. Criminals will be criminals no matter what. They'll mug someone. They'll do something that's inherently wrong because they're criminals. Okay, but owning a knife is not inherently wrong. Owning a weapon is not inherently wrong. Defending yourself is not inherently wrong. It's illegal under common law of just being a human, natural law.
Stuart, more about the oil. The New York Times is talking about how the Obama administration, along with Saudi Arabia, is the real reason the oil prices are down is because they're trying to bankrupt Russia.
Yeah, and we see that obviously there's power struggles going on right now with Russia. Major
power struggles.
That's how would we describe it? Because they obviously, Russia's not saying Russia's good, because Vladimir Putin is a billionaire elite that does whatever he wants pretty much, but they're not controlling him as much as they'd like to, and so Vladimir Putin's making deals with China.
He wants his own new world order and be the head of it.
There we go. That's kind of a good way to describe it. The new world order is struggling because they want to control the world, and there's other facets, little secret societies over in China, Russia. They have their own elite that want to run the world. So I guess that's kind of good. At least there's some struggle for power. There's some gridlock in the new world order. I mean, at least we know the criminals are fighting. We want them to fight so that at least we can get back on our feet, America, and start just wiping out these criminals altogether. Okay, but yeah, I mean, and you notice that the prices of oil continue to drop. And that's going to actually...
Well, it could backfire on the United States because that could actually pop the shale oil bubble.
Yeah, and that means that people that invested in oil now will not get the returns because the profits... Remember, I mean, when the price goes down, you don't make as much money, you know? And so... And also the oil, the shale oil reserve, it's not...
It's all based on estimation.
Yeah, so they don't know how... I mean, that bubble is going to pop. And then the investors... The stockholders are going to, you know, and the oil rigs themselves. I mean, if you have an oil company, you know, that you've taken loans out for and you can't produce and the price of oil is going down, you can't make enough profit if you're competing with these low prices. So it's going to affect a lot of people. And
they're trying to consolidate, but
yeah,
they may shoot themselves in the foot and wind up collapsing the whole damn market.
Yeah, and then hopefully, man, see if the free market could just operate, then
it would weed out bad actors, and we could start up an oil company.
Yeah, I mean, why? And I even looked into online, how do you start a bank? Because the thing is, we just never ask these questions. I mean, why can't Sam and I start a bank?
You're just a little man that can't do anything.
Yeah, we can't do anything because they'll make it so hard. They'll make me have to go get a law degree.
It's called barriers to entry. They set the barriers to entry so high that entrepreneur American, how I thought this country was supposed to be, cannot enter the market.
Yes, that's exactly right.
It's monopoly capitalism.
Yeah, if I want to start a bank, you know, just to even... Well, the thing is you have to be approved, but you'll never be approved. So
you're not in the club.
You're not in the club, and that's just the way things are. It's licensing, it's policies. Oh, well, it's America. It's the United States policy. The Federal Reserve says, well, you can't start your own bank, or the federal government. You can't start your own bank because because we just didn't approve you. Well, no, I should be able to start my own bank and issue currency that people value, and also that trust that I should offer them a service and they trust me with their money. And
if you don't produce a good product, then you fail.
Then you fail, and that's it. But the banks and real quick,
they offer a horrible product. It's a monopoly. We don't have any other choice.
And that's why I either invest my federal debt notes into things that matter, or I keep all my money out of the bank, because at any time, even though it's insured, it doesn't matter. Money's not worth anything, so I would keep all. You know, they might even limit your transactions.
They pulled a fast one on America with the Sherman Antitrust Act, saying they broke up the monopolies. They did nothing of the sort. They just renamed them. And now we see the consolidation back into the monopoly again.
Yeah,
they're not enforcing the Sherman Antitrust Act.
Now, explain that a little bit for our listener. What our listeners
to break up Standard Oil was one of the main reasons why they implemented that law, and we see it broken up into Exxon and a bunch of other subsidiaries.
So there's not a monopoly on the market, right?
Yeah. Because Standard Oil back in the 30s did have a monopoly on the oil market, and a bunch of other J.P. Morgan in the
same
banking.
And so the banking is the same deal.
Same deal, yeah. But the big monopoly, which is quasi-governmental, is
which means appearing to,
which has a federal law enforcing it, is the Federal Reserve.
Yeah,
and so they said, well, we implemented the Sherman Antitrust Act. There is no more monopolies because it's against the law, and that was just pulling the wool over the American people's eyes.
Yeah.
Because back then there was political action to stop this, because the American people knew, hey, we're getting screwed over here with the prices being rigged by these monopolies.
And it doesn't matter how many laws they put in place to keep monopolies from happening. If they keep printing more money, you won't be able to afford to start a business. I mean, to compete with the monopoly, and they're in the club, remember. And the Fed doesn't have to report anything to anyone. They're above the law, and that's how geoengineering happens. Just so you know, who pays for this? What's the paper trail? Guess what? The Federal Reserve. Go try to get some information from the Federal Reserve. You'll probably be put in jail or shot.
Well, that's not entirely true, Stuart. They do issue the comprehensive annual financial statement, but we know that they have a lot of off the books deals going on, and
because they've admitted it, they don't have. They don't have right. They don't have to. They don't have to actually tell Congress anything. They really
No,
don't have to.
No, they don't.
And, folks, we're going to get right back to some news for our last half of the second hour. Here's a word from our sponsors.
Local businesses, do you want to help them succeed? So do we. The Thrifty Nickel Want Ads is a family-owned business that has been a big part of the local community for over 30 years. Our goal is not only to produce a paper that is not only successful, but enduring. We are looking for experienced outside sales representatives to help grow and expand the Central Valley's favorite classified paper, while creating successful marketing campaigns that will increase business for their clients. If you care about better working relationships with local businesses, then we want to hear from you. 50% commission of every new contract acquired. If interested, contact Art at thriftynickelwantads.com or call 559-472-7182.
Listen up, Fresno. Are you tired of boring local news coverage? Then log on to FresnoForward.com, the Central Valley's #1 source for independent, local, and alternative news and views. FresnoForward.com is updated daily, bringing you stories on government corruption, local activism, Fresno culture, and so much more. Did I mention FresnoForward.com has no ads or signups required? FresnoForward.com. You'll love it.
We all know that a natural disaster, EMP attack, and martial law are a real possibility. Prepare before the crisis, because FEMA can't and won't keep you safe. Tops Military Supply. Veterans serving veterans, their families, and the community. Visit us at 605 West Shaw, Suite A, Clovis, California, or call us at 559-298-6001.
Folks, we're back. This is We Are Change Fresno on 1680 AM. I'm your host, Stuart Webb, along with my co-host, Sam Chaney. We got Woody in the studio.
Hey.
Thank you for listening. We appreciate our listeners. We appreciate our sponsors. I know I tried to address that in the first hour, and I got kind of tongue-tied because Sam was telling me I got to push a button here or there. But we just like to thank you guys for listening. We're just trying to bring you real analysis, real news, and opinions. We like having interesting people on the show to talk about their opinions because no one knows it all, okay? And we need to hear alternative voices, viewpoints of everything, and shape our own our own consensus of what we believe to be true. And
your own worldview, and do your own research.
Yeah, and so we want to bring you that kind of content, which you're not getting many other places. And we're not perfect. I mean, geez, we're still working at it. And we've been doing this five, almost 6 months now. But we do appreciate you listening. And we're going into crunch time. We got 25 minutes left. We're going to try to get through as much news as we can. Sam sent me a lot of links, and we won't even get through half of them. But go read some news and read some books and start becoming geopolitically informed. Sam, what do we got?
The wars are a fraud. The war on terror is a fraud. As we went over in the first part of the show, the war on drugs is a fraud. Here's 10 reasons why. The Mexican and U.S. taxpayers pay billions of dollars for the drug war, mainly to military contractors, to no avail and creating no improvement for either country's national security. The United States military and intelligence cooperates with and empowers a corrupt narco Mexican state. The DEA collaborated with the Sinaloa drug cartel. The CIA distributes U.S. weapons to the cartels. Corruption is not only in the public sector, even the giant Walmart allegedly has bribed its way through the Mexican bureaucracy.
Meanwhile, the World Banks help launder money for the cartels, which is true. Came out $380 billion. Wells Fargo.
It's out of this world, Stuart. With that kind of money, the narcos can and do purchase police chiefs, entire departments, and high-level state officials. The Mexican government does not prosecute more than 93.8% of drug crimes that are reported. And while the population gets scared to death, the violence continues, and there are no real social, structural, economic reforms, which is why the party is pushing immigrants up north and flooding the American labor market. And finally, there's a lot that people in both Mexico and the United States can do, which is don't do drugs first off, and speak out about this corruption and don't go along with it any long. Don't support the phony war on drugs.
Yeah, and Rick Ross was on the Alex Jones show. The real Rick Ross, the actual drug dealer, was on the Alex Jones show today.
Freeway Rick Ross.
Freeway Ricky Ross, the real thug that actually made millions of dollars selling drugs, not the fake rapper, Fat Pig Ross. And Rick Ross said,
"Well, the guy that wears a medallion of himself around his neck."
Just what a narcissistic scumbag. Ricky Ross. I mean, he said if you want to be a real thug, you shouldn't do drugs, and I agree with that. You shouldn't do drugs. You shouldn't do anything the system wants, anything the establishment pushes or wants you to do, because that's being a real rebel. Like what me and Sam and I are doing, and Woody, we're in here fighting tyranny. We're in here pushing real issues and talking about real issues. We're not sitting at home just doing drugs. Okay, the establishment wants you to do that. The power wants you to do that. The New World Order. And they want you sitting at home doing that stuff. So I like what Ricky Ross, the real Rick Ross, said. He said, if you want to be a real thug and fight the system, you shouldn't do drugs. You shouldn't do anything that they push, because, I mean, look at it. I mean, this is why, if you look at Mexico, what they should do is legalize drugs and legalize the free market. Then these cartels couldn't make money, because there wouldn't be, if the free market was operating, people would be selling their product, and there wouldn't be a lot of profit in selling drugs.
Price, and it would take away the incentive for violence. The prices would drop overnight. The taboo would be out of it. And as we know, in Portugal, for example, they legalized drugs or decriminalized them, and all those things happened, and there's not a bunch of drug addicts running around on the streets, and society didn't collapse, and all this stuff. Their violent crime actually decreased.
Yeah, I mean, if the government, all they have to do to have a monopoly is make something illegal, and they have a monopoly on that business, that market.
And CIA planes are continually crashing with a bunch of cocaine. It's just ridiculous at this point. Tosh Plumley, the CIA whistleblower, he always talks about it, how he flew the drugs, the cocaine for the Iran-Contra scandal. And it's just ridiculous at that point. Remember the Iran-Contra scandal? You think they stopped doing business after that?
Yeah, it's like thinking that evil stopped after we beat Hitler in World War II. No, the evil ran Hitler, just so you know. Yeah, I mean, look at all these lists just on the Mexican war, the Mexican drug war. I mean, and the U.S. drug war. The war on drugs is a fraud. It's controlled and ran by the governments in cahoots with the criminals. I mean, they're all ran by the same entity, and they're all doing it for profit. They make money. Okay,
to screw over the people.
Yeah, and
the taxpayers.
And even if you say, well, you don't do drugs, you're not involved, you're not supporting it. Well, but what happens when the government tries to suppress gun ownership and the cartels come into your neighborhood and kill whoever they want?
I mean, they're doing drug raids on the wrong houses, killing people in America.
Yeah. And for what, you know what? It's funny. I forgot I was going to mention this, and then I just remembered it. Okay, so I was driving today, and I saw these undercover police officers that looked like DEA agents pulled over these cars. It was at Shaw and Palm. And I'm thinking, man, this is definitely a drug operation or something. They're doing an undercover operation.
It looks suspicious.
And so they're checking the car, and unmarked cars are there, undercover cars, and it wasn't a formal police car that we pay for, that we can see, oh, this is a police officer. It was all this these clandestine
secret
operations.
Spies.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, oh, and I guarantee you, it was for something like drugs, or even if it was guns. It doesn't matter. In America, you should be able to own guns, own drugs, sell product that you want. But you shouldn't be able to. And I say that, and people say, oh, they'll write us off for saying that. But in a free market, you should be able to sell a product. It doesn't matter what it is. I mean, you should be able to sell the product, and the free market will solve all of the issues. I mean, if everyone's selling cocaine, most people aren't going to you're not going to make money off of it, okay? So it would just be like selling cigarettes. Same with guns. I mean, and I just thought it was so funny in America.
If it was legal, everybody'd be a junkie, really?
Yeah,
if
we don't have any aspirations.
We could probably walk right down the block and get some cocaine.
Yeah, I mean, not everyone's an alcoholic, and alcohol's legal. And so I just thought that seeing those cops, those undercover police on the street, they think that they're doing something great by being part of the system. They just, I mean, I mean, they stop someone from, and even if that person might have been a bad person or a criminal, but you've made them a criminal by making the product that they're selling or anything that they have. I mean, if it was for illegal weapons, I don't know what it was, but I just thought to myself, is this person a real criminal that they pulled over, or did the system create criminals by making drugs illegal, by basically making owning guns now criminal? I mean, everything's illegal in this country. Is this America?
You know what's not illegal is genetically modified food.
Yeah.
The USDA approved genetically modified potatoes. So watch out, folks. The next French fry you eat could be genetically modified.
Yeah, and with the GMOs thing, the market's already spoken. And do we want GMO labeling? Yes. Now, do we want the government to mandate it? I mean, at this point, I don't want the government to do anything. So at this point, we just need to boycott GMOs. The market has spoken, and we just need to stop eating McDonald's, which I have years ago. I mean, it tastes like garbage. So you should just boycott all these places. Start shopping. You can find organic, quality food almost everywhere now. Now, is the bad stuff still available? Yes. Now, these genetically modified foods, we should boycott them. Yes, because we don't know the after effects, the years later, what they do. You might not see immediate effects, but it's like, a bad economist, only looks, a year ahead. A good economist looks 20 years ahead, right, Sam?
Yeah, well, Stuart, the propaganda is so overwhelming against labeling, and so the market is speaking.
Yeah.
The market is speaking because Walmart is now talking about introducing their own line of organic food to compete with Whole Foods, for instance, and that's going to drop the price, and that should be good for the American consumer who wants to eat healthy, non-GMO foods.
Yeah, as we smarten up the market, we are using our dollar, which is, Sam and I talk about this, is that our purchasing power is so important. We can push the market. I don't watch TV. I don't watch cable. CNN is now collapsing. No one watches it. The market has spoken. They can't survive.
Network laughed at them.
Yeah, they can't survive without taxpayer money or bailout funds or the Federal Reserve. So, and the Fed's like, oh, well, we should probably just cut them loose because let's infiltrate something else.
If you provide a horrible product, no one's going to buy it. And the only way you can stay in business is government bailouts.
Yes, and that's why we are against government and government bailouts. I mean, not necessarily government itself, government by the people.
I am at this point. It's fascism, authoritarianism. It's a command and control economy. It's right out of, I don't even know what hellish sci-fi dystopic novel or movie, but we're right in the middle of it here.
Yeah, it's a command and control economy. You can't operate without them, without them, you being on record of operating, going through their system. You have to get this license. It's the policy. You have to do this. You have to pay these fines. You have to do this.
All for your safety as they pollute our whole food supply with these genetically modified foods.
And that suppresses innovation, technology. I mean, folks, it's 2014. We have literally amazing technology in our pockets, and we are so stupid. We haven't figured out how to go to other planets yet. There's so much for us to do. We should be living like kings, but it's because we've gotten lazy that we are just. We are products of our own ignorance. And so we are just trying to bring you some information, so maybe it'll spark a fire, so you'll smarten up. But yes, genetically modified foods. We don't know enough about them. We know that they cause cancer in animals that eat it. Certain modified foods,
tumors.
They have pesticides built into them. They'll kill the bugs that eat them. Now, do we think that the technology is there, kind of like vaccines? Yeah, I think maybe it is, but I don't trust anything that's being put out now.
They won't.
Right?
They won't do an honest test about it. That's the whole thing.
Yeah, and
if their product was good, they would do honest tests, provide the literature, and say how great it is instead of propaganda all day. The top 10 propagandists against labeling were Monsanto, who gave almost $9 million. Pepsi gave they gave more than $3 million. Coca-Cola, $2 million. Kraft Foods, almost $2 million. Land O'Lakes, $1.6 million. General Mills, $1.5 million. Smuckers gave $640,000. Kellogg's gave $500,000. Hormel gave $170,000. Bumblebee Tuna gave $95,000. It's out of this world, Stuart, that they will pay this much money to keep a label from being put on their product about what the actual ingredients are.
Yeah,
and the FDA wants to march around all day and say how they're protecting the public's best interest and they care about public safety. That's the disgust and utter hypocrisy that makes me not like the government very much.
And in another article you sent me, it was about the FDA only testing, what, 1/10 of a
percent?
About
the pesticides. well, why do we need all these genetically modified foods? So the chemical companies can sell their pesticide. Yeah. And, folks, if it kills the bugs, it blows the Bt toxin in the GMOs, in the corn, for example, it blows the bug stomachs up. Okay, what do you think it does to your stomach when you eat it?
Yeah, and you may not see the effects right away.
That's why I'm fat.
Well, that's why we're seeing this explosion in bowel disease in
colon
this country.
issues, gut issues. We're seeing so many health problems
all the time.
Oxy powder, bro. I tried it. I've been doing it for 7 days. It's amazing.
Yeah,
it cleans everything out. I'll tell you.
No, but out of the FDA's tasked with testing pesticide levels in food, they test less than 1% of domestic fruits and vegetables. Less than 1%.
It's 0.1%, folks. And why are we even paying for this organization, this government bureaucracy?
For them to lie and have a revolving door so executives and lawyers can make millions of dollars while they poison us and fulfill the eugenics depopulation agenda.
It's like the Air Resources Board. It's like they're just they're literally, they have no purpose. And they might do a couple things here and there. But the thing is, we might as well get rid of all government and pay the free market. Anyone who wants to actually do a job and deliver us a product, a service. Hey, FDA, test everything. If we're how about let's pay an organization, if you want, pay to test the products and they can certify it. The free market can handle that. But the FDA says they admit they don't even. It's not even 1%. It's 1/10% of the imported foods.
They're going to say, well, that's our statistical sampling. And
and that was what, the Government Accountability Office, right, Sam? Yeah, and the Government Accountability Office sometimes does a pretty good job, but guess what? They have no authority. They don't have they can report, but they have no authority. So, I mean, it's
dust in the wind.
Yeah, and so we just need to stop paying for all this bureaucracy because they're not even delivering a product. It'd be one thing if our government was delivering us products. Deliver us something. We pay taxes. Deliver us a good service, a product. That's why when you go to the DMV, no one wants to go to the DMV. Oh, it's the government. Oh, it's DMV. Well, hey, instead of complaining about the DMV, get involved and say, why do we even need a DMV? What does the DMV do? All it does is it shaves. It says in order to drive, because when you sign your license, I know where I'm going off into this, but when you sign to get your license to drive on the road legally, you sign away your rights. You have to pull over at DUI checkpoints. You sign away your rights, even though that's illegal, and that's why they know it's illegal. The cops know it, so they actually will let you go at a DUI checkpoint. But that's a side issue. The DMV, you can't drive your car unless you are registered with the DMV, have insurance, pay your tags, yearly tags, get it smogged. It's all it's a fraud.
And now illegal aliens. It's like an oxymoron. I mean, I had to do a double take on when I heard them announcing it. They said illegal aliens are now going to receive a driver's license in the state of California. These people are here illegally, and yet they're going to be issued California state driver's license.
They're above the law. They're illegal already, and it's okay for them to operate outside of law, which they are.
Why don't they get their citizenship and paperwork before they get their driving paperwork in order?
Yeah, and Sam and I are not against immigration. The bureaucracy has made it so hard to become a citizen of this nation that people don't do it. They don't do the hard way.
It's a lot of hard work, Stuart.
And I think that there should be some work involved if you want to be a citizen of this nation. But ultimately, as we've said before, if we were operating constitutionally in this nation, we could take millions of people, and they would be subject to the Constitution and the free market. You couldn't just walk around and be a thug because guess what? We have guns as well. You can't just be a thug and be a Mexican cartel and take over Fresno, California because guess what? We won't have it. And but the thing is, they don't want us having any rights, but then illegal aliens, when they come, they're granted all these special privileges. But I have to sign away my rights when I get a license. But illegals, it doesn't even matter. They get a license. When they get pulled over, the cops can't do anything. The jails are overcrowded. You can't even process them hardly. I mean, it's just unbelievable. So what is even the point? What is even the point of driving with the license?
The point is, show me your papers, just like Nazi Germany. No. We're living in a police state here is the point.
That is the point. We are living in a police state, and we need to start. And, oh, man, if we haven't talked about cops in a while, but, man, I've been, Brian Sumner is a cop block activist, or call him whatever you want, but he films cops. And he does it.
Iraqi veteran.
Yeah, Iraq veteran who went and served this country and figured out. He actually came back and was truthful and honest about his service, which was really going over there and terrorizing.
Which most veterans people. Are. I mean, what we're getting nothing but lies and propaganda from the media about hyping up about how great war is all day.
And talk
it's
about
nothing but lies. Talk to a real veteran that was in combat, and they'll tell you the horror. And hell
they will.
It really is.
And they see it coming back. They understand. And the thing is, the people that serve in the military are some of the best people that you could ask for, and that you want on your side. Exactly, and they know it's a fraud. And so, just because Brian Sumner, decides to film cops, which is totally legal, and actually everyone should film cops, he's attacked constantly and called un-American. And actually, he's getting threats on Facebook about how he needs to be killed, basically, because he films cops. And these mindless people that think they are conservative. I mean, they want to call themselves pro-police. Okay, being pro-police is not saying, police, you can do whatever you want. You're above the law. You are God. That's called being, what is that? What is that?
It's called being a slave.
A slave, that's the word. So now, if you're a police officer that operates within the Constitution, we love you for that. We absolutely love you. You are a public servant, and we pay your salary just to remind you, and you are doing your duty. Anyone who doesn't operate within the Constitution, you don't have my respect, period. You don't have my respect, and you have a license to kill from the New World Order. That's why we don't really like you when you start to bully us for no reason or ask me for my ID when I haven't done anything wrong, et cetera, et cetera. So we're not against police. We're the police that actually act within the Constitution. We love those guys. So filming cops if you're a police officer, you should never have a problem with someone filming you, because if you're doing what you're supposed to, operating within the Constitution, and I'm sorry, maybe you shouldn't pull over people for going too fast, because that's illegal too under the Constitution, just so you know.
Sir, you want to talk about big time crimes? J.P. Morgan committed one of the largest financial crimes in history. In 2006, the banking giant went through a massive criminal securities fraud, and they tried to pay off a witness to keep it from the public. And so it's just, you want to talk about the real criminals? It's these big banks. Okay, J.P. Morgan, for instance, and their CEO Jamie Dimon. I mean, that's another one of these. Just like we talked about, Tony Blair is one of these James Bond supervillains. Well, the CEO of J.P. Morgan Chase, Jamie Dimon, is another one of these James Bond supervillains. I mean, that's who we need to be pointing the finger at, or who the real criminals are in this society.
He paid, what was it, $9 billion?
$9 billion.
To just avoid due process. Committing crimes, fraud, selling...
securities fraud.
Securities fraud, selling bad security. They knew that they were bad, and the whistleblower, she read over all these and said, oh, this doesn't look correct because the dates, they look odd. It doesn't look like these are good. These are good to sell. And so basically they just lied
Giving an honest analysis.
Honest analysis. And so they, had to threaten her or whatever, or pay her off. I don't know what happened, but she is an honest person, so she came out and talked to the media, which is good. But look, $9 billion, you pay the Justice Department, right? A certain fee.
They're taxpayer funded, yeah.
Yeah. You pay the Justice Department billions of dollars
for them to tell us they're too big to fail and they're above the law, essentially the big bank.
And there's no due process. And since the Justice Department, I guess, has the final say because it's the highest prosecuting arm of the government, I guess, they can just say, well, we don't. They didn't. I mean, even though they committed crimes, just pay us this fine. And
it's a cost of doing business.
It's a cost of doing business.
And to top it off, Stuart, it's a tax deduction because they write it off as legal expense.
To pay the fine for their crimes.
Yeah, it's all accounting. It's accounting fraud is what it is.
Yeah, and Sam is an accountant or has a degree in accounting and economics as well, right, Sam?
Yeah.
So he's not
immoral,
just
it's unethical. It's complete and utter fraud, and they're going to sit there and try to justify it as we're too big to fail. If we let these banks go bankrupt, which they are, then it will cause systemic failure. Well, that's what needs to happen in a free market capitalist economy.
Could you imagine if the banks failed and we didn't bail them out? The taxpayers said, "Nope, no way, we're not doing this. We don't care."
Did. I mean, there was 90+% were against the 2008 bailouts. Congress didn't care.
Yeah, Congress didn't care. So we need to be more vigilant, because could you imagine if the banks failed and we could have actually started over and had a fresh start? But hey, we're not just saying this stuff. I mean,
no, we're bleeding out economically still. Yeah. They've never corrected the 2008 derivative scam. I mean, because that's what it is. As we went over last week on this show, these banks, all the big mega banks, are leveraged 60-1. I mean, they're already bankrupt right now. So prepare financially and diversify your portfolio and get yourself out of dollars.
Yeah, if you have money in all these, mutual funds and all this baloney,
it's all valued in dollars.
Yeah, and remember, the assets of these big banks are, not exceeding $2 trillion, or what, I forgot what it was, $2 billion.
They have assets of on average
60
$2
billion
trillion, and they have liabilities of 60 trillion.
Yeah, something similar to that. So it's like 60-1. So they'll never.
That's on average.
You'll never, when that bubble pops, you'll never get that money back. It wasn't real wealth. It's being propped up, and so just understand that. We're just trying to let you know. And these criminals that run. I mean, the government and the banking industry is now. I mean, it's just the government is. It's all the same thing. It's
one crime syndicate acting against the American people.
Yeah, and so they're not allowed, and they have a monopoly on currency. You're not allowed to operate in the free market.
We can't even prosecute them for open securities fraud.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Sure, if me and you go forge up some derivatives, some stocks, we're going to prison for a long time.
Yep. Look at the Wolf of Wall Street, right? I mean, even just for something minuscule like violating certain policies. I forgot what specifically it was, but I mean, it was not. These guys are hardcore criminals, and then the Wolf of Wall Street, a guy like that did something that
low level. They throw him under the bus, and then say, "Look, we're busting the bad guys."
Yeah, well, they just pay $9 billion to literally not even have a trial. It's like if you murder a bunch of people, well, just pay this fine because we are Wells Fargo or J.P. Morgan Chase. We'll just pay $10 billion to the United States government, and got off scot-free, clean slate, no big deal.
One more thing about the banks. The LIBOR scandal. You should remember that. That's where they rigged the interest rates of just about every financial transaction that you're involved in. They're being prosecuted, but it's just going to be another fine.
Of course, yeah, because the criminals don't go to
It's stealing
jail.
From you when they rig the interest rates. Do you understand?
Yeah, and remember, if Sam and I go start a printing press and print some money, our own currency, or even just, counterfeit dollars.
Secret Service is coming to our house, probably kill us, definitely arrest us, and we're going to do a long time in prison.
Yeah, and we'll be on the news, demonized, while the Fed prints trillions and gives it to whoever they want. And there's hardly any congressional oversight, nor would Congress do anything because the Fed runs everything and funds them. But look it up, okay? Look up what we're talking about. We got about 20 seconds left. I'd just like to thank everyone for listening to this show. We love getting pumped about freedom and liberty. We hope you join us next week, and thank you. We appreciate it.
Keep your eyes open for false flag attacks. Diversify your portfolio out of the dollar. Peace, love, and liberty. Speak out now and take action.
Good night.
This show is sponsored by We Are Change Fresno.